Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Cowboys predicted to demote $40 million star for third-year playmaker. If there is one area of the Cowboys' offense where we can give something of a thumbs up, it would have to be the receiving core. Sure, there are questions. CeeDee Lamb has not had training camp, the depth is thin, but at least Lamb has a contract, and the guy they wanted to see win the number 3 job, Jalen Tolbert, played well over the past 2 months. In fact, Tolbert could be one of the players most worth monitoring in the opening weeks of this NFL season. The Cowboys are hoping he is primed, as he enters year 3, having not produced much in his first 2 seasons, for a breakout year. There are indications that could happen. Tolbert has spent the summer trying to latch on to quarterback Dak Prescott as much as possible, in hopes of developing a rapport with the quarterback. That's never a bad strategy for a young receiver, especially as he steps into the number 3 role that had been held by Michael Gallup, who had not meshed with Prescott lately, was released and later retired. Much will be expected of Tolbert. And in a bold prediction about the upcoming season, the guys at the Locked On Cowboys podcast foresee not only a Tolbert breakout, but a shift in the depth chart, with Tolbert overtaking Brandon Cooks, a player who has posted 6 1,000-yard seasons in his career, as the team's number 2 receiver. It's not an outrageous notion. As host Marcus Mosher laid out in the podcast episode entitled, 6 Bold Predictions for 2024 Dallas Cowboys including Pro Bowl RB Rico Dowdle, the fact that Cooks turns 31 this month, will be a free agent next year, he is in the final season of a 2-year, $40 million contract he signed with the Texans before he was traded to Dallas, and averaged a career-low 41.4 yards per game in 2023 sets up his role to be ripe for the plucking. I think Jalen Tolbert ends up being the wide receiver 2 for this team, and it's a couple different reasons why, Mosher said. Number 1, I think we're going to see Jalen Tolbert have a breakout season. We saw it at times last year. We saw him have a really good training camp, really good preseason, and the regular season stuff got better as the year went along. The Cowboys essentially gave him the preseason off, which suggests he is ready for a big role. Going into year 3. I just think, in a McCarthy offense where everybody needs to move around, CD moves around, I think Tolbert's flexibility and versatility makes a lot of sense. On top of that, Brandon Cooks is older, he is dealing with a knee injury, it makes sense to scale back some of Brandon Cooks' work and not have him on the field for 60, 65, 70 snaps a game. There is reason for caution, too, though. Last year, Tolbert had the opportunity to seize the number 3 receiver's job, but did not do so. Rust could be a significant factor in the outcome of Week 1 for the Cowboys. Ideally, the Dallas Cowboys would come out in the season opener against the Cleveland Browns in Week 1 of the 2024 season and already look as if they're in mid-season form. That unfortunately is probably unrealistic considering the majority of their starters had little to no snaps in the preseason, and because of that, will likely look a little rusty early on. Rust could be a significant factor in the outcome of this Week 1 matchup with the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys' decision to rest the majority of their starters on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball in the preseason means whatever rust they needed to knock off was hopefully done in training camp. Sadly, training camp practices may not have been enough to completely knock off all of the rust. Offensively, there are a couple of big factors that could result in some sloppy play in this Week 1 matchup with the Browns. For one, the offensive line continuity may not be at the level it really needs to be at the beginning of the season. As things stand right now, it looks as if the Cowboys will have 2 new faces starting for them at 2 critical positions along their offensive line. Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton, both rookies this year, will need to be at their best against Cleveland and their talented defensive front. With mostly just practice reps with the other starters, communication will be key. If that's not concern enough, the connection between Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb will only have a few practice reps to get back to where it was last season because of number 88's holdout. These two combined for 135 receptions for 1,749 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns in 2023. Hopefully there's little to no rust with their synchronization. We can only hope CeeDee Lamb was putting in the work during his time away from the team while contract negotiations were ongoing. Even if he was, he still may not be exactly in football shape right away. It may take him a little time on his own to knock off a little rust, and as such, may struggle a bit in week 1. There might be just as much concern about players looking a little rusty on the defensive side of the ball as well. Not only are they still learning and fine-tuning themselves to Mike Zimmer's new defensive scheme, but a lot of them didn't participate in any of the preseason either. Plus, injuries and free agent additions will play a factor as well. Jordan Phillips and Linval Joseph haven't had much time to acclimate themselves in Dallas other than in training camp practice. That alone could have a ripple effect through the rest of the defense, from Dallas' young linebacker core to their secondary, where it looks as if they will start at rookie CB Kalen Carson as Darren Bland's injury fill-in on the outside. So yes, while the shortened preseason may help prevent early season injuries, it also likely means we could see quite a bit of rust still remaining for several Cowboys players. That could result in sloppiness in all 3 phases the game in the season opener against the Browns, but only time will tell how much it will play a factor in the outcome. Jerry Jones answers whether he would ever hire Deion Sanders as head coach. Would Jerry Jones ever hire Deion Sanders as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Stephen A. Smith asked JJ that very question, and his answer may come as a surprise. "Let me throw this out at you, Jerry," Stephen A. Smith asked Jerry Jones. This is crazy. Crazy. I know this is, I can't even imagine it happening. What if I said to you, Jerry, Cowboys are going to lose again? And as a result, you're gonna find yourself feeling the need to make a change. And Jerry Jones decides one day down the road in the near future, assuming that he doesn't achieve the success that he covets, that he's going to hire prime-time Deion Sanders as a head coach. That would be crazy. Is Jerry Jones crazy enough to do something like that someday? Jones then proceeded to make it very clear where he stands on the possibility of hiring Deion Sanders as head coach of the Cowboys. No, but he does know how to spell well enough and not answer a hypothetical question, Jones replied. Hey, first of all, you are familiar with I'm going use it, the love affair that we have. I have always admired him, both on and off the field. Some of the best stories that I have to tell about my time in sports have been Deion-type stories with Deion and Michael, Irvin, and those guys. Jerry Jones then went off in a tangent that was pretty clearly designed to avoid talking about hiring Deion Sanders as the Cowboys' head coach. I remember the one that I love the most is he came in to sign his big contract, $12 million bonus at the time, Jones recalled. I had put a total cash, out of my cash, $12 million down to buy the Cowboys, $12 million to buy the Cowboys. Now I didn't have to come up with the full $150, but I used all of my cash. Before I gave that to Deion Sanders, I went back to my hometown, Little Rock, Rose City, North Little Rock, and I walked down my old street. And I walked down it when that quarter and that dollar used to be everything. Walked down there, saw some old chips on a tree and on a telephone pole that I knocked out. I turned around and walked back because I wondered, had something gotten over me, had I completely lost it to be thinking about paying a man $12 million bonus to do it. I walked by my old house, went back over, got on that plane, that was then, this is now. I'm going for it. Went over, met Deion at the stadium. Never forget. Came in, great to see him. The whole time we were waiting to go on stage and announce that he was going to be a Cowboy, he spent playing with that boy. And all he could pay attention to, had all these people around, it was that boy. And I said that's a heart I want to be around right there. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Deion Sanders? Leave your opinion in the comments.